Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia. Welcome back to another patch breakdown video for patch 1.5, and today we'll be talking about the map and population changes in the game. So our previous two parts covering the new characters as well as the new titles did run a bit long, and I'm trying to shorten these, and we went from an hour to 45, so this one hopefully will continue trading down. So let's jump into here. Now on the patch note, one of the main map changes is a 190 map start change. For the 190 time frame start for the Rise of Warlord, there are new factions that are added to the south of the map, and they are 朱福, 始皇, 始吴, 始夷, 圣仙, 陆堪, White Tiger Yan, 严白虎, and Southern Yellow Turbans. And there were a few adjustments to the map as well. Zhangchao and Zheorong's starting location got swapped in Guangling, and Wanglang moved from Pengcheng to Kuaiji. And Liu Yao was given extra regions. Now, some of these changes are quite interesting. Everything before Shiyi, the first four changes, really deals with how Shi Xie's faction will play. And I believe Shi Xie will eventually become a free LC in the future. Because you've got to consider some of the requirements for free LC is that the faction must be available for a 190 start. So Shi Xie will be perfect for that. Since he's always available in every start and he lived till his 90. He's a very pacified lord. Didn't participate in any wars at all during the entire Three Kingdoms period. His main achievement is becoming very good vassals to Sun Quan and to cultivate the land of Jiaozhou and to teach the Chinese language as well as Confucian culture to the local population, which included some parts of modern-day Vietnam, and there are still temples honoring Shi Xie, who's nicknamed King Shi in Vietnam even today. And the factions we see added in here, Shi Huang, Shi Wu, and Shi Yi, are his younger brothers. So what happened with Shi Xie was he was originally had a court job in the capital because he traveled from the Jiaozhou region where his father was a local administrator, back to the imperial capital to study after a teacher there, to learn Confucianism and take on a court job there. And then when his father died during the Yellow Turban Rebellion, during the early stages, he volunteered himself to come back to Jiaozhou because there were rebellions raging on. Some of the ethnic groups in the region were rebelling. And since his family has been there for many years, the government official approved for him to go back to take on an administrative job. And his father's death helped him because if his father was still alive and had an administrative role, it's usually not the case to let such a far away, basically administrator, to have his kids with him. If you think about it, Liu Yan, when he went to become the governor of the Yi province in the Shu region, his sons were kept in the capital, kind of as an insurance for the imperial government to know that you won't be doing anything, against the country in these far out fringes regions of the empire by keeping your sons in the capital. So since his father died, Shi Xie was allowed to go back, and then after he go back, he put down some of these rebellions, and then he recommended to the government, who was already kind of engulfed in the Yellow Turban mess, that his brothers are capable administrators as well. So he put his brothers in key positions throughout the Jiao province, and they eventually kind of gained full control over it. Now, Zhu Fu was someone that the government sent over to the Jiao province as a governor to take control of that region, but he was never able to wrest control away from the Shi family. So this is definitely a potential conflict that the game is trying to set up by adding them in. Potentially you could have your brothers either as independent factions or as your vassals, and then Zhu Fu could be one of your main enemies in the beginning. The other four factions added in here, Yellow Turban not including, I guess, the other three, kind of just plays up to the Son of the Bandits and then Sun Ce's story, just to be free-flowing from the 190 start to the 194 start. So those aren't really relevant to Shi Xie's story. So from this little piece, I guess what we can guess is that Shi Xie might come as a free LC in the future. Looking forward to that. Him and Zhang Lu both had armors ready made when the game was launched. It's in the game asset folders. They have unique armors made for them, so the modeling is probably already done. It's just that they were never included into the game. Maybe the faction mechanic wasn't flushed out, but hopefully we'll see them as free LCs in the future. So aside from that, one of the biggest change that came with this patch 1.5 is population change. And to better represent the reality of population in Han China, all the provinces have had their starting population reworked. The north and central plains of China will now have a larger portion of the population compared with the south, with the population in the south of the map being increased for a World Betray's start, while the population in Luoyang and the plains north of the Yangtze River being larger for Mandate of Heaven. Below is the list of the historical provinces and in-game commanderies that would have been placed with them. Due to gameplay restrictions, all population numbers have been halved from the actual historical population size. So, if we take a look on the left, you see the game has listed out 14 different provinces in the game, and these reflect the 14 provinces available during the later periods of Han China, Eastern Han China. And I have provided a map of these provinces with the English translation of the provinces available. One thing to note, so for example, let's take Jinzhou right in the middle in the blue. So Jin is the name, Zhou, which is shared along all of these, ZHOU, it means province. So in game, you might see a commandery called Yangzhou or Youzhou. It's basically where the game design took the province name and used it as the commandery name. The map in the game, honestly, is a big mess compared to historical maps. And the reason for that is probably for game balance design, and you can't really fault them for that. And at this point, almost 9 months into the release of the game, I think it's a little too late to make a total revamp of the map, and it's not realistic to match it historically, just because I'm going to show you guys a little bit later how the commanderies should actually look. So I'm not going to read through these populations. These are just starting populations. So you still have the same population cap as you had before with the same commandery buildings. So you can still increase your population to 7.5 million per settlement if you have Imperial City. So that didn't change. It's just that the northern half of the country had starting population increase to better reflect the original case in history, and the southern portion had their starting population decreased to reflect their situation in history. And they also adjusted this for 182 and 190 and 194 start, so that by 194 more population has escaped south following the Yellow Turban Rebellion, and in the 182 you had more heavily population in the north. And the provinces are a little bit different than what they are, historically located for the game in terms of like what commandery they put in. And this isn't the fault of the provinces. The fault of the issue is the way the game did commanderies. So let's look at an actual commandery map of the Three Kingdoms period. So this is a commandery map. You see tons of commanderies, right? It's subdivided, much more detailed. And if you look in the north, you have super small commanderies all over the place because you had high population. So you had high population density in a sense, and you have a much smaller commandery with much bigger population. In the south, you get these giant land without many people living in it. And we'll point out a few of these, commonly confusing ones so you guys get a feel for it without wasting too much time going over this entire map. So for example, if we start out here in the pink region here, this pink region is Yanzhou, and in game they say it's the Dong and Taishan region. But if you guys think about where Taishan is placed, Taishan is a trade port commandery. It's all the way in the ocean, but the pink here doesn't reach there. But Taishan is included in the pink region because it's actually a mountain, right? Taishan, Shan means mountain, so Taishan is actually a mountain. And it's the farthest right part of this pink area. But I circled the one on the farthest left. And this commandery is called Chenliu. Chenliu. So Chenliu is the starting commandery of Cao Cao. So many people are confused why Liu Chong is the prince of Chen and Cao Cao also has Chen. That's because Chen and Chenliu are two different commanderies. Chenliu here, slightly in the north, right next to Dong, should be where Inchuan farmland is in the game. And that's where Cao Cao started out. And Chen, As you can see, it's a little circle down below. It's a much smaller commandery, more inland, probably where the farmland of Chen would be, and that's where Liu Chong started out. It's a very small piece of land that he was given. And then, the in-game Chen version is just this huge area that probably included about 5 or 6 real-life commanderies of the time. And then if we look at slightly to the left of Chenliu, that's actually where Inchuan would be. So from that, you can kind of guess the Inchuan commandery is correctly placed, but the farmland would be a different commandery called Chenliu. And then in between them, a little bit below, is Runan, which is pretty accurate to the game location. So another pretty confusing part is Xuzhou. So Xuzhou is a big theater here in the 194 start, since you have Liu Bei, Lu Bu, Tao Qian, Cao Cao all fighting over this region. And the one I have circled here is first Langya. So this is the part that stretches all the way into Kongrong's territory in the Shandong Peninsula. But in reality, Langya is very, very small. It's just the city portion of what's represented in the game. And right under it, also really, really small, is Donghai. Now, Donghai in-game stretches all the way down the coast, a pretty large piece of land. And then below them is Guangling, which goes all the way to the Yangtze River, but in reality, it doesn't reach that far. The commandery below them that's really, really big is Wu, and that includes what's in-game of everything south of Donghai's fishing port, what is represented as Guangling in the game, and all the way down to Jianye, and that's all Wu. And we can kind of see this in terms of reference. There's also a little circle on the left. It's Pengcheng. And in between these four, it's actually a place called Xiapi. Now, Xiapi commandery is actually the biggest commandery in Xu province. And Xiapi is where Lu Bu would die. But sadly, of all the pieces of land that they included for the Xu province in-game, they didn't include Xiapi. So it's a bit awkward to place Lu Bu. And that's why he would snatch up Langya in-game from Liu Bei when he betrays them. It's really, really weird to not have Xiapi in the game. But in terms of reference, I just circled a couple more down below in the Yangzhou province. The one that's on the top left is Lujiang. And the one that's really small in the middle is Xindu. Xindu is very small because it's near a mountain. And then the really big piece of land down south is Kuaiji. Kuaiji was huge. It's just basically every territory that extended for the rest of the south eastern portion of Yangzhou. And then when it goes to the green or the Jiaozhou portion, that's Nanhai. So all your Dongou, Huoguan, those commanderies don't really exist. They're all part of Kuaiji. So that's why it's kind of hard to refer to a lot of these locations you might see in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms book or in the TV show with what you have in the game, just because the game made much bigger commanderies with counties for gameplay reasons. That doesn't really reflect historical splits of what they should look like. But that's fine. We'll make do with what we have and try to reconciliate as best as we can with history when we're talking about it. So aside from these changes, population also comes with other changes in the game. Population has been reworked to now provide bonuses to all income sources, not just peasantry. This is a great change. This encourages you to actually try for tall builds in most of your big and lucrative commanderies, whereas before, if you had a big lucrative commandery and that's not peasantry, you might not care about population, right? You might still go tall, but you wouldn't care about keeping your population high. So now you actually want to keep your population high because they can provide you up to 200% population to all sources, which is really crazy. Because if you think about it, previously you could get your peasantry base income to maybe around 680 in some really, really good commanderies if you build out all the taxes and build out the administrative office building, which is no longer there. They revamped it back to what it was before patch 1.4. But basically you could get it to about 600-ish. And then you can boost it by additional 350 just from population. So that sounds pretty great, right? But now you have stuff like industry, which can easily reach a base of 1,500 in commanderies like Poyang, Jianye, and Taiyuan. And then when you have 1,500 base and you get an additional 200% on top, that's a lot of gold that was never available to you before. Because previously all you had was maybe 40% from a private workshop. And then now with the changes to the forge building giving you items and also providing 20% industry income, as well as the labor building, which also now becomes super good, not only because it will provide you additional industry income boost, it will also give you population boost. 80k per turn. That's huge. That will overcome all sorts of public order issues. Remember we mentioned before, if you have negative 100 public order, you get hit with 12k population loss per county. So even if you have 4 counties, including the settlement, that's only 48k loss per turn. So with just a level 5 labor building, you can overcome that population loss super easily and continue to gain population. And gaining population will now also increase your food production, which is definitely helpful for all these new tall commanderies you're going to be building. And they will also grant additional construction per turn once over 1 million. So what this means is that at 1 million, you will now be able to build 2 different buildings per turn at the same time, basically. Whereas you always could only build 1 building at a time before. And I think this increases per every million population you gain. So you can speed up your build quite easily in the end game as you gain more population. This isn't a huge change. It's nice in quality of life, especially on the first million. But later on, as you build up, you're probably going to be overflowing with money, especially with how this income change is now going to push your income much higher than before, like the total potential income you could get. So you could easily just rush buildings and get your construction done quickly. Assignments and buildings that increase conscription, so things that increase your replenishment rate and mustering rate, will now cause a decrease in population. And assignments and building that increases population by a large amount, like the labor building, will now decrease adjacent commandery population. So think of it as some sort of migration, right? With the exception of wood building. So with the exception of the old land development building, that chain will still just provide passive population growth from you having more farms and more food. So that's the new population effect. Pretty relevant change for your economy, and will definitely take into consideration for future commandery build guides. And this change alone pretty much wiped out every single one of my commandery build guides, because now the population bonuses is completely different. And probably you want to emphasize more on high resolve administrators, even for other counties. Now, it doesn't mean you have to have a champion, but it just means you want to look for resolve stat as well. And additionally, items, follower items, like I think the labor, I forgot the name of the item, but it provides 8k population boost per county. And that's an excellent item because population comes at a premium for income as well. So lastly, the last change in the game is fertility change. The following commanderies have their fertility level changed to better reflect their historical food production capabilities. So let me just generalize this for you guys. Anping, right, increased to high. So let's say Anping is, and then the last one, Zhongshan. These two are your northern commanderies who previously had normal. Now they have high, because the area that Yuanshao starts out at, that's a breadbasket of China. That's why you have so many small commanderies in that region, because they can afford such a high population with what they had growing from those land. Other than that, you have Ba, which goes from normal to high, Chengdu, which goes from low to high, which is the biggest change, and also Jiangyang, which goes from normal to high. These three reflect the changes to the Yi province, or the Shu region, Shu-Ba region, and that's because Chengdu benefits strongly from a dam that was constructed all the way during the spring-autumn periods, and it's known as a huge breadbasket ever since, even to today. They call Chengdu Tianfu之国, which means like similar to like living in heavens, and because plenty of food, just huge production. So they're reflecting that by changing all these commanderies to high. Chengdu going from low to high kind of showcase how wrong it was before, and how a lot of people complained that Chengdu had low fertility. Other than that, Cangwu, Dongou, Fuling, Guangling, all these, Guangling is different. Guangling goes to high, but most of the southern ones, all the ones that start south of the Yangtze River, now drops from high to normal or normal to low. Basically, all of them drop a tier. And the reason for that is to reflect that not many people there are cultivating the land, not saying that they're not productive land to produce food, because there are a lot of river there in modern day. The South do provide a lot of rice production. So it's not that they are not fertile land, it's just that they weren't developed at this time. So similar reflection to how the population growth. And the other two that they kind of balanced is you see that Guangling and Yangzhou, these two that are slightly north of the Yellow River, got shifted to high. Although, it's true. They were good production, as you can tell from how much gold Zhuorong was able to steal from the Guangling, Pengcheng region, which is also another big breadbasket. Yangzhou, however, is funny, just because if you think about how Yuan Shu died at the end, he died without food, basically, died of thirst at the very end. But his fault for splurging all the gold on building palaces and maintaining concubines and living a rich lifestyle. But those are a story for another time. So that's all the changes to the map and population for patch 1.5. We'll be back next time going down the patch notes. One thing to note is that I have skipped over all the bandit faction changes and the free LC material in the patch note because I'll be making separate bandit guides. So we'll just be going over units next with balance changes and unit cost changes, and then ending with some bug fixes and other changes as well. So hope you guys enjoy these, and see you all next time. Bye!